In this video on the domestic policies of President Bill Clinton, we'll look at the period from the congressional elections of 1994 through the 1996 presidential elections. Now, angered by Clinton and with enthusiasm on their side, the Republicans ran a very good campaign for Congress in 1994, and they actually won an historic gain of seats, taking control of the House of Representatives, and this is going to prove significant in going forward. Much of the credit for the victory would go to Newt Gingrich, who had led efforts to create what's called a contract with America. They highlighted it was poll tested. 10 promises they made that if they were elected that they would enact, things like term limits. As a reward for his efforts, the Republicans elected Gingrich the new Speaker of the House. Emboldened by their 1994 election and with the hardliner Gingrich in charge, Republicans adopted the idea of not negotiating on budget bills, sort of game of chicken, making demands and forcing the Democrats to cave. And what that did was that resulted in several government shutdowns as they debated budgets 1995 and 1996. The Republicans hoped that the public would blame the Democrats, but it soon became evident that people blamed the new ardent Republican majority. Many people believe that anger over these shutdowns played a part in Clinton's re-election later in 1996. After the 1994 congressional loss, Clinton hired a new advisor, consultant Dick Morse. Morse and others helped convince Clinton that his administration had appeared too liberal and would get nothing done. Hell, Clinton might not even win re-election in 1996 unless he shifted rightward. Now, after some consideration, Clinton agreed. Morse, by the way, later became embroiled in his own personal scandal, and after his removal, became a bitter Clinton critic on Fox News. The best example of Clinton's new tack, what Morse advocated, was his signing of the Defense of Marriage Act of 1996, allowing states not to recognize gay marriages. Clinton proclaimed that the legislation was, quote, divisive and unnecessary, unquote. But he signed the socially conservative law anyway, angering many social liberals. In the 2000s, this law was declared unconstitutional. Clinton also agreed to compromise on welfare reform, signing the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Act of 1996, which is, of course, a mouthful. But what it really did was kind of simple. It revamped the welfare system. Having twice vetoed Republican efforts to get rid of aid to families with dependent children, the AFDC program, which provided financial assistance to low-income families with children, and that was something that the Republicans claimed caught people in a cycle of dependency. Clinton now decided to sign legislation that the Republicans advocated to overhaul the welfare system, and this became the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Act. And what it did was it did indeed, as Republicans want, terminate the AFDC and AFDC, and in its place, it created the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Program, or the TANF. What that did was that imposed new work requirements for and had lifetime limits on aid recipients could get. It also largely shifted responsibility from the administration of the program to the states, and all that Republicans liked. It also, however, added, additional job training, which was what Democrats wanted. So it was a predominantly Republican bill, and again, it shows you Clinton was willing to move rightward as Morse had advocated. As his 1996 re-election campaign approached, Clinton arguably had the wind at his back, much different than 2 years before. Voters still remember the government shutdowns, and Clinton appeared to have moderated. Morse, again, had helped to move him a little bit rightward. Clinton and Gore were easily re-nominated by the Democratic Party, while the Republicans nominated old stalwart Bob Dole from Kansas. Dole defeated fiscal conservative and commentator Steve Forbes, but selected as his vice presidential running mate another fiscal conservative, Jack Kemp. In the 1996 election, Clinton defeated Dole 49.2% to 40.7%. The margin was 379 to 159 in the Electoral College. Ross Perot ran again, but his percentage of the vote fell to 8.4%, which was lower than what he had gotten 4 years before. In any event, this concludes the video covering the Clinton domestic policies from 1994 through 1996.